Hey everybody, welcome. I know a lot of folks are still joining us today, so gonna give it another minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, Kristen. It's good to see you. Glad you're here. Thanks, Aubrey. Appreciate it. Right, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Andrew Hodge. It's wonderful to see y'all. For some reason, I am unable to change the name of my on the list, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw my name and I'm going to throw my email address into the chat. If you want to follow up, if you have any questions, feel free to do so. Excellent. So name and email address are in the chat again. Name is Andrew Hodge. I'm Director of Innovative Instructional Models here at Texas Education Agency, and it's an honor and a privilege to be with y'all today. In education, in any year, we say, hey, it's a crazy time of year. I used to always send emails with that because it was always a crazy time of year. And I think this year has taught us what that actually means. And with that, know that there's a ton of stuff on y'all's plates. And just want to acknowledge and thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. This is the CRIMSI overview for 3 new available options with CRIMSI, the COVID Recovery Instructional Material Support Initiative. Rolls off the tip of your tongue, at least just remind you because I've said it so much. Particularly today, we're going to dive into the options for spring adoption coaching, a summer pilot, and then a 21-22 full year pilot, all with the lens of COVID recovery in mind. We know that COVID is horrible, and COVID has done a number on student learning. And so we know that recovery is real and recovery is needed, and accelerating student learning is something that we're all working to do. So we hope that these supports will help y'all help out students a bit more to do those things. A few housekeeping items before we get started. If you do have questions, answers, please throw them in the question and answer box. Q&A function allows us to be able to track those questions and then throw them into an FAQ on our website, texashomelearning.org. Just makes it a little bit easier also for us to organize it as well. So we'll ask that any questions you have go into Q&A. Usually folks are asking at this time, well, will this be recorded, slides be available? Absolutely. We'll work to get this recording posted on texashomelearning.org/CRIMSI by the end of the day. Ambitious timeline, but I think that we can make that turnaround. Slides as well. So we'll make that happen for you to be able to either rewatch or share with colleagues that aren't able to make it today. And again, I think with the Q&A, just please, any questions that you have, please ask. I think this is for you. And so if there are questions that you have that we are unable to answer, we'll let you know that and be transparent with you. But our goal is to answer every question that you have about these 3 available CRIMSI options. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Today's agenda, we're going to do a quick recap of Texas Home Learning, then we're going to dive into what the COVID Recovery Instructional Material Support Initiative is. We're going to talk a little bit about the summer options, some of the summer content, and then we're also going to talk about Texas Home Learning Instructional Materials Adoption Conference, which is actually next week, March 23rd and 24th for those that are watching this recording. We'll actually walk through the application just to make sure that we can answer any questions about the application process. We've improved it from our spring CRIMSI pilot, so thanks for the feedback. We are always looking to continuously improve, and so we'll go over that along with next steps today. So I want to reground in Texas Home Learning. If you're here, you probably know what Texas Home Learning is or have been told about Texas Home Learning, but essentially it's a resource completely optional, available to Texas educators to use as folks see fit. An important component of it is the Texas Home Learning instructional materials, which we believe are an incredibly helpful tool for teachers to be able to teach in person, virtual, a hybrid setting, which is the reality for a lot of folks. And then even as things return to a new normal in the fall, be able to specifically use these materials for recovery, learning loss recovery, and learning acceleration that are necessary due to the COVID crisis. So with Text Home Learning instructional materials, OT has been able to offer free access to 100% TEKS aligned digital native. Just want to be very clear that if folks want to print these out, educators can print materials to use in their classroom. That's appropriate and available as well. But these are all built to be customized, built to be used by Texas teachers and customized for Texas in this environment. When we say instructional materials, what we mean is the full gamut of the resources that a teacher would need to do to facilitate student learning in a Texas classroom. So this is everything from a scope and sequence to individual unit plans with summative unit assessments that are all 100% TEKS aligned, and with our core products, 100% TEKS coverage. Included in that, we also have formative assessments to let our teachers know, to help give teachers a lens into student learning throughout the school day, throughout lessons. So we're not waiting until a summative assessment to give us that so important feedback that our teachers need to change the instruction, develop the instruction, and help students that are potentially not understanding some of the content. In addition to that, there's built-in teacher supports, additional teacher supports beyond lesson plans, student support, family supports. There's caregiver letters with a lot of resources, information to help caregivers and families know a little bit more about what students are doing in the classroom, what to expect for the unit, for example, and we'll show you some of that. They're all, again, built to be digital native, but have printing capabilities, so they can be used in a fully virtual setting, they can be used in a fully in-person setting, and they can be used everywhere in between. There's also built-in progress monitoring and supports for all learners. And of course, these are designed to be used comprehensively with best practices of curriculum development in mind. But we do know that there's folks across the state that are in different places and also different ability to make changes in the instructional materials, which is probably about the biggest lift that you could do within a school year. So we've designed them so that they can be used comprehensively, but folks are also able to use these as they see fit. So want to dig into CRIMSI specifically, but actually before we do that, I do see a question in the Q&A. Yeah, so the question is, Aubrey, thank you for your question. The question is, will Texas Home Learning be available in the 21-22 school year? The answer is yes. All of our resources will be available for the 21-22 school year. When we go to the website here in a little bit, I'll actually show you the product fact sheet, which shows you how long each individual Texas Home Learning material will be available. About 3/4 of them are actually owned by the state of Texas as what we call open educational resources. So they're built for this this current educational environment, this current learning environment, but the state of Texas actually owns them forever. And so they're free for our educators to use them however they see fit. So let's dig back into CRIMSI. So the three main objectives of CRIMSI are really around teachers and supporting teachers and making it hopefully easier and more sustainable for teachers to do all of the many things that we ask of them across the school year. So, and specifically what this means is that CRIMSI supports teachers in piloting high quality instructional materials like Texas Home Learning instructional materials to develop for in-person or remote learning. Want to create more opportunities for students experiencing learning loss due to COVID, and finally want to provide additional professional learning supports around implementing these materials. So we know that materials are an important tool, but really at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our teachers and our leaders are equipped to be able to use them as they need to use them in order to meet the needs of their students. So specifically, what is CRIMSI? I would think about it as this. CRIMSI is this entire graphic, but we have Texas Home Learning materials. Those materials exist, and like we talked about earlier, those materials exist for any Texan to be able to use as they see fit. And that is over the course of everything from 2 or 3 years up to forever. If folks want more help in using those materials, that's where CRIMSI comes in. So CRIMSI essentially allows districts and schools to select a group of teachers, and this is really at the end of the day, this should be a group of teachers saying, "Hey, we want to do this." That's the ideal. We're not looking for these to be top-down initiative that happens to teachers. We're looking for teachers that'll find use of these materials. And so what happens is those folks say, "Hey, we want to pilot Texas home learning in our school," and this doesn't need to be a full-scale implementation. It could even just be one teacher. But we want to pilot this, and then through CRIMSI, you're also getting onboarding professional development, ongoing coaching, and access to communities of practice, which are organized by the CRIMSI team. We think are pretty valuable tools. In addition, I want to call out for the CRIMSI summer pilot, we're also able to offer printed materials and stipends for participating educators in that summer pilot. We're seeking to do the same for the full year, for the 21-22 full year pilot, but we can't confirm that yet. So just want to be upfront about where stipends are and are not available. Also want to do a shout out to our CRIMSI Spring program, or our CRIMSI Spring pilot, which is currently underway with 85 districts across the state of Texas, over 1,000 participating educators. And really, this is an opportunity to join those folks in this big communities of practice as a state, which is pretty cool to be able to continuously improve and develop to meet the needs of our students. And so with that, we have 3 new supports for any interested district with CRIMSI. So the first one is spring adoption coaching, spring materials adoption coaching for the 21-22 school year. So, and we'll get into the details of this. The second is the summer CRIMSI pilot, and the third is the 21-22 full year CRIMSI pilot. So let's start with the spring adoption conference. The purpose of it is really to enhance supports to help out districts as we know y'all are thinking through incredibly tough decisions and questions and processes in order to set up your districts for materials for the next year. The ideal candidate for this is somebody within within a district that makes decisions on instructional materials, whether that's at the district or school level, in order to enhance supports for teachers for the next school year. This program will start in April of this year and last through June. Again, this is spring coaching for folks that are looking to make instructional materials decisions for next year. And that application is due. The submission of the application is due on April 9th. We also have a CRIMSI summer pilot, and we've heard really a lot from districts saying, "Hey, this summer is a game changer for our kids, and we want to use this summer to accelerate learning for our students, especially given the past year that they've had." And so the goal with the summer pilot is to use the supports of CRIMSI to reduce COVID-related learning loss, accelerate student learning, and then this is customized to a summer learning program. So you'll see a little bit of difference here. The number 1 and number 3 options are for more of a full-scale, full-year implementation. We know summer is a little bit different. There's folks across the state that are often offering 6-week summer programs. Some are offering 4-week summer programs. So we know there are differences there. So we've designed the summer pilot to accommodate for those differences, yet be flexible to your individual needs. The summer pilot is for teachers and schools that are looking to implement a summer program. We know a lot of y'all have plans already, have calendar already to implement a summer learning program, and so that's really who this is for. I think that there's probably a huge lift to get a summer program scheduled on the calendar right now. Not impossible, especially not after what we've seen Texas teachers and educators moving mountains over the past year, but this is really for folks that are implementing a summer program that would benefit from a set of high quality instructional materials and additional support to implement them. That program will also start in April, and then it'll last through the end of the summer learning program. There will be an option there to continue on and receive future supports next year if folks decide they want to keep using Texas home learning materials and keep receiving the supports through CRIMSI. Totally an option. It's on the district if it's helpful, on the teachers if it's helpful or not. We're happy to provide some support. That application is also requested by April 9th. I want to show an overview of the available summer products through CRIMSI. We've heard from a lot of districts, hey, we are looking to really dig into and prioritize pre-K, math, and reading language arts. And for us, we have for K-5 an option reading language arts Spanish as well. But we've heard that's really where the priority is for folks. So we've designed the summer products that we're going to have available in that format. I want to, with math, two things that I want to call out is that we have some digital tools that are available as a supplement to Eureka Math TEKS edition with ST Math and Zern that we're able to provide supports around. And then want to call out specifically with RLA K-5 again, that the K-5 knowledge component of the Amplified Texas Elementary Literacy program is available in both English and Spanish. So it meets the needs of our English and Spanish speaking learners, and can also be an option for folks that are running, excuse me, a summer program for English learners. A quick plug at the end, you can also find information about all of these products on texthomeLearning.org, information on implementation supports and general overviews as well. Another plug here is that the specific units, you could say, yeah, Andrew, that's I see the products, but what about like what actually are folks going to be doing? We will be posting those very shortly on texthomeLearning.org, and then we'll host a webinar series during the week of April 5th for folks to be able to get an overview of those materials. And you can register for that at texthomeLearning.org/summer. And lastly, there's the 21-22 full year pilot. So the 21-22 full year pilot is to recover COVID-related learning loss for a full year implementation of Texas home learning materials. So these are folks that are not going to be implementing a pilot unit. These are folks that are going to be implementing the Texas home learning materials from the entire scope and sequence throughout the entire course of the year. And what the full year pilot is it's an opportunity to get extra supports on the front end to be able to have teachers get the support they need to be able to implement those materials well. So just different supports that are built around the materials that would help out our teachers and district leaders. This is something that will also start some supports in April 2021. And then move through actually the end of next school year in terms of the supports. The application is requested on June 11th and accepted on a rolling basis. So as you can tell, the mismatch in the program start and the application due date. This is for the full year pilot. As soon as folks apply, they will have access to some of these initial adoption supports as well with the full year CRIMSI program. Want to also call out that, there's actually only one application for these. So if we know a lot of folks that are interested in all three of these options, there's only one application that folks have to fill out. We'll walk through that application in a bit, but you can apply to one or more of these CRIMSI supports through that application. And then lastly, this shows just a quick comparison of all of those options. And again, you'll have access to this slide deck to be able to compare. With the spring coaching, through spring coaching, you can see that really it's about this, the adoption and implementation supports. We have a THL instructional materials adoption conference that I'll highlight here in a second, and ongoing biweekly coaching for spring. Summer and full year pilots look fairly similar. Again, we have confirmed that stipends and printed materials will be available for summer, but not yet for full year. But regardless, folks in summer and full year will both get access to the instructional materials as everybody has, but additional implementation supports, communities of practice, and ongoing coaching as well. Speaking of the THL Instructional Materials Conference, which is a slide that I wanted to be right after this one, but it wasn't, that we have posted that on texthomeLearning.org, and there's a slide that's coming up where I'll highlight it a little bit more in depth. But for now, I want to just go into the requirements for participating districts in CRIMSI. So folks say, great, that's what I'm getting on the previous slides, but what do we need to do? We've designed CRIMSI to be as flexible and adaptable for local needs as possible. So folks that are thinking about joining CRIMSI, y'all get to make the decisions on who is going to implement this. Do we want to do this across an entire grade level? Do we want to do this within an entire school? Where do we want to pilot this? District or school-wide implementation is not required, but what is required is that y'all in your application say, this is where we want to implement CRIMSI in Texas Home Learning. And we do want to make sure that it does include a minimum of one grade level and at least one teacher for teach. There's also a minimum number of minutes. So there's operational master scheduling considerations here as well. So we ask that you do have the minimum number of minutes to actually successfully carry out the lesson in a day. Participation in the program is required as well. And then having a district point person is helpful for communication. So that's something that we ask as well. Also, I want to come back to this, the flexibility piece, because it's so important, such a big part of this. We get questions of, through CRIMSI, am I required to go full school, full district? No is the answer. This should be useful to your teachers, and to the extent that it is, we'd love to offer it and love to offer some support. To the extent that it's not, that's okay as well. So folks have flexibility with the CRIMSI summer pilot and CRIMSI full year pilot to say, this is the product that I want to use, or this is where I want to implement, or these are the teachers that I want to implement. That's all something that you can define based on your local needs. And a quick note about the timeline. We do have that adoption conference that I mentioned earlier in the next week, actually, next week. The application is due for CRIMSI Spring Coaching and the CRIMSI Summer Pilot in April. Our Summer Learning Framework webinar series was a really cool opportunity to learn more about all the supports that we have for summer. That'll kick off in late March, early April. That'll be available on texashomelearning.org/summer. Coaching and implementation will begin in April and May. Don't forget that full year application is due, and it'll be on a rolling basis, but due requested in June. And then that full year support and training will officially kick off in June. Here's that slide we were looking for earlier. So doing a quick plug for the Materials Adoption Conference. This is something that's available to anybody. If you want to be a part of CRIMSI, if you don't, this is still an opportunity that's available to folks. So this is an adoption conference that has product overviews, Texas Home Learning specific product overviews, support in the adoption process. We know there are seemingly infinite decisions in the materials adoption for y'all in districts. So just some additional help from our team, from our instructional materials and implementation team, to be able to help y'all along that process. And then again, it's free and it's available to anybody as it's useful for you. And you can register at that bit.ly that we have. You can also find a link on texashomelearning.org, which I'll show here in a second. So I'm going to pause there before we dig into the application. I'm going to check the chat real quick, or not the chat. And thank you for putting your questions in the Q&A. So check that real quick. Yeah, so great question on if we do coaching with number one, but don't want to do summer, but we do want to do full year, can we do that? So the answer is yes. You can choose which of the three you want to apply for. You can apply for all of them. You can apply for none of them. Whatever best meets your needs is okay with us. It's designed so that you could do any combination of these. Got a good question about the number of minutes. Is it based on the recommended number of minutes, days and minutes, and the roster of units? Kimberly, I believe that you're talking about the roster of units that we have listed on the Texas Home Learning webpage. The answer, if that is where you're asking, the answer is yes for the full year materials. With the summer specific materials, just given some of the flexibility in summer, it should match that recommended number. I don't want to commit to that because we're also building in flexibility for folks to say, actually in the summer, we're going to have an hour of math, or we're going to have 90 minutes of math, or we're going to have a 4-week program, or we're going to have a 6-week program. And I'll just show you all where that is when we get to the website. Can you show the requirements slide again? Absolutely. And so this is the requirements slide. I got a request to go back to that. all this information, all these requirements will be in this deck when it's available on the website. It's also actually on the webpage as well, so you can find it there as well. Yep, and then Aubrey, you had another good question about the minutes per day. Each of the units that Texas Home Learning has a recommended number of minutes. And so that is the number that I'm referencing. So for example, if this is all illustrative, if the 10th grade reading language arts unit says there's 45 minutes needed in a day, with CRIMSI, we'll ask that you have those 45 minutes actually scheduled into the day. So I want to, there's a couple more questions in the chat, I'm sorry, in the Q&A that want to get to. Actually, so Kimberly asked a great question about they're an RSSP. Great, we love RSSP. There's a lot of RSSP districts that are in our current CRIMSI program. Said, would spring adoption coaching work in conjunction with RSSP? I can't tell you exactly how they would. I can tell you that we're having a lot of conversations with our RSSP team to ensure that there's overlap and integration here. So the answer is that's ideal. That's what we want. I can't tell you exactly what that looks like yet, but that's something that we can, Kimberly, if you want to just shoot me an email about that, we can loop in their team and get you a better answer on that. Okay. So I want to spend the next few minutes actually going through the application and letting you know what is available. Again, this application is designed to be flexible. You could do a district-based application. Somebody at the district office can say, hey, we want to do this and we want to do it at this or these schools, and that's okay. We've also designed it so that a school can say, you know, we want to do this and we're going to do it with these teachers, and you can actually apply to do that as well. So we've designed it to be flexible between district and school applicants. The timeline is here. This is key timeline. So the application is available. You are at this optional informational webinar. Congratulations. As we look forward, there will be product information sessions during the week of April 5th. Those are specific to, those will be twofold. One is an overview of the summer units, but it will also be a Q&A where you can ask the publishers questions you have about their products. April 9th, again, is the deadline for spring adoption coaching for next year and for the summer application. We'll also ask you after that application deadline to give us some information to help us facilitate printing for you, as we know that often takes a little bit. So we'll be asking you that quite a bit early. And then applications, again, are due for the full year folks on June 11th. Based on capacity, we can keep that open for longer. I will say the capacity for spring filled up very, very quickly. And so just want to encourage folks to get in your applications. We'll be accepting those on a first come, first served basis. Again, additional supports for your application. This is the webinar that will be available. The recording will be available on texashomeLearning.org/CRIMSI. And we do have those product webinars that are coming up during the week of April 5th for additional support. There are three main application components. One is a district and campus information form. And this form asks you kind of district information. What is the number? What is the addresses? Who's the contact? Some of that information. There's short answer, very, very few short answer questions. Just want to get your learn a little bit more from folks about their interest in this program. Learn a little bit from folks about what they're hoping to achieve so that we can tailor the program accordingly. And then lastly, there's an assurances document that says essentially we commit to those requirements, Andrew, that y'all mentioned earlier. And you can these parts are actually all built into the application, which we'll go to now. So I'm actually going to switch my screen share, and I'm going to share. I'm going to go navigate to texashomeLearning.org, so you can follow along at home if you wish. Can I get a raised hand if you can see my screen now? Perfect, thanks y'all very much. Okay, so this is texashomeLearning.org. There's our homepage. If you are looking for the application here, you can go ahead and scroll over to instruction materials and hit CRIMSI. And so that'll take you directly to the CRIMSI page. Again, this CRIMSI page has pretty much everything that we're talking about today. And we'll actually host this webinar. The recording of this webinar. You have the three options here. This information should look familiar. We just went over it. Do want to call out there's some additional supports for all of these, including that summer learning framework that we spoke about earlier, the materials adoption conference, and some other strong start resources that we have for the 21-22 school year. Finally, you get down to access the application. So to access the application, all you do is click into it. And we've changed the application process to just be a form. We heard from folks that this might be a little bit easier than the previous Word doc that we had. So on that form, it'll ask you information, like I said, your district information. You'll input that information, ask if your district's currently participating in Spring CRIMSI. But this question right here is the one that you want to pay attention to. This says, which of the programs do you want to apply to? So let's take the example earlier that came up in the chat. When somebody said, we think we just want to apply for the spring adoption coaching and the 4-year pilot. So you can just click those, and then the application will adjust to just ask you the questions that are relevant to those. You'll say, hey, we want to participate with 2 schools. That's great. And then you'll actually input that the information from those schools into this into this form. You'll click into the program that you're wanting to participate in as well. In addition to that, you will also add in which instructional material or materials you are able to or wanting to implement. The rest of this information is really important to us for printing purposes. This helps us get a gauge of what we'll need to ask to the publishers when they print those materials. And so you'll input the total number of teachers participating in the units you select. Just want to call out here quickly, the form adjusts. So if you say, I want to do Eureka Math Teaks edition, that information will pop up. So that's what's right here. And then you implement that. We also selected that we want to do RLA Spanish. So that's why this popped up down here. And so you'll just input that information. Here is the written part, which is one question that, again, just says, why do you want to participate in this? And so let us know what you think there. And then lastly, there's the assurances upload. This is the reason this is an upload is because it's literally, if you're familiar with TA grant processes, it's just a document where you say, yep, I will commit to these assurances. And let me back out and show you where we find those here in a second. But then you can get a copy of your responses and go ahead and click submit. And that application will come to our team. And if you get a copy of your responses, it'll obviously go to you as well. A couple things that I want to highlight from this. I'll first highlight where you can find the assurances. The assurances are actually back on the CRIMSI page where it says steps to submit an application. Here's the application that we just went to. But then also here's that assurances form. So you'll click that, and a separate doc will pop up. And it says, these are all the things that we are committing to. Our district's in the loop. They know, they're good with it. The teachers have agreed to participate. So you will assure that you're able to do these things. And then at the end, the authorized district representative will sign this. For the authorized district representative, we're asking for, in some districts, in all districts, this could be the superintendent. Some districts that doesn't make sense. We're asking the lead of curriculum instruction to be able to sign this. And if you need support thinking about who should sign this within your district, we're happy to help out as well. Just send us an email at texthomelearning.org. We'll pop out of that. One other thing that I want to show for folks is a product count template that we were able to develop. If you click it, it will pop up. Let me go ahead and share my screen so that you can see it. Can I get a hand up if you could see it? You should be looking at an Excel document. Great, thanks. Think back to the application that we just looked at. It asks you for how many people are going to be a part of this, how many teachers, how many students. If you actually need to, you'll probably need to actually go get that information somewhere, and it's probably easier to not just record that information directly into the Smartsheet. So we developed this product count template. If this is easier for you, this is not required. You're not submitting to this to us. This is solely meant as a tool for you as you're completing the application. So fill this out as it makes sense for you. If you say, I'm going to do, I'm elementary and we're going to do second and third grade and we're going to do it for these folks, and I have X amount of teachers or students. That's how you fill it out, and then you just input this information into that form that we looked at a minute ago. Again, this is solely a tool for you to use. If it's helpful, if it's not, or if it's confusing, don't worry about it. I'm going to pop back over to texthomeLearning.org. Just lastly, run through this. Again, the application will load here after I refresh it. You can access the application here. One application for all of the options that you have available. And then you can get resources for the application down here. Here's the assurances form. That product count template that we just looked at is down here. If you want to see, the slides from this webinar, you can click them here. You can go to the recording, which will be up soon. All these are resources for you to use as you see fit. The last thing that I want to highlight, which is something that has been up previously in this webinar, is this. Actually, I don't think that's the right thing. Yeah, it is. It's been up previously in this webinar, is this survey. If you're interested in CRIMSI, if you think it's something that you might want to do, let us know so that we can reach back out to you. Also, there's information in there that asks you kind of like, why are you interested in it? Again, so that we could tailor the program. So let us know in that survey, and we can do that to the extent that it makes sense. The benefits, the requirements are all here. And then there's some resources specifically for teachers. Now these are for the spring pilot. You can look through the slide and see if it makes sense to send to teachers, but everything that you need for the spring adoption coaching for the 21-22 school year, for the summer pilot, or for the 21-22 full year pilot is on texashomeLearning.org. We're about to pause for questions, but before we do that, I promised two things earlier in this webinar that I want to show y'all on this website. One is the product fact sheet, where you can see this product fact sheet. It's under instructional materials, where you can just see kind of a quick view of really quick questions that folks might have of all the materials. So for example, here's 3 different categories. The first one is cost considerations. Somebody previously asked about the licenses for Texas Home Learning materials, and you can see all of those in this product fact sheet. So for example, these are some of the ones that are open educational resources, meaning the state of Texas owns those forever for y'all to use as you see fit. Some of them are licensed, like these, that are only available for a certain amount of time. So you can find all that information again at the product fact sheet on our website. The last thing that I want to highlight before we pause for questions is the question about unit times. So if you go to instructional materials and do it either by subject or by grade, either one matters, you'll get ultimately to the same information. On the tabs, you can scroll either by subject or by grade band, and then you'll see the individual products which are on these tabs. For each of those, there's a little overview. It says, hey, here's the product, here's what it looks like, here's some samples, here's some professional learning opportunities that you have at your disposal. That's all available to you, but if you scroll down, this is where you can see for your Ecomathematics edition, kindergarten to 5th grade. Here are all the units, here are the modules, here's when they'll be available if they're not already. And here are the minutes that are recommended. And here is the length of the units in terms of days as well. So again, that's available on the by subject and by grade level pages within the website. You just click whatever you want and then scroll to the bottom and you'll see the minutes and the days available for each unit. We're gonna go ahead and stop sharing. I'm going to pop back over to the PowerPoint deck. And we're gonna pause for questions real quick. Question about the upcoming webinars. All of our webinars our webinar, the question was, will the webinars be available outside of school hours? So for all of the webinars that we lead, we'll record them and we'll post them on the website so you can review them at any point. I assume the question is particularly about anyone where you need to be synchronous and asking somebody a question. If you're unable to make one of the webinars and have questions for either us or for any of our partners, send us an email. Shoot us an email at texthomeLearning at ta.texas.gov, and we'll get that question answered for you. Additionally, send me the email, and then I can help you get the answer to that. andrew.hodge@ta.texas.gov. It's in the chat. The email's in the chat. Great question is, what if your summer learning time is only 3 weeks long? Will CRIMSI work? So right now, CRIMSI is available. If you do only have a 3-week summer program, we'll work with you on that. It is a challenge. 3 weeks is a short amount of time. And so I think we'll need to be creative on how we're able to actually fit the implementation of a summer learning program within that timeout. So we can work with folks, but we know that that's definitely going to be a challenge. Question about materials being available digital and in print. All the materials are available digitally. All the materials can be available in print. You have the ability as an educator to print the materials for your own needs. So they are available digitally. All you do is just go back to our website, go to the materials by subject, by grade level section, and you will you can access the materials, and then you can print those as you see fit. There's a good question about applications. If we're already doing the spring pilot, will we need to submit a new application? The answer is yes on that. Ideally, you can actually copy over a lot of the district data to the new application. But if you are doing a spring pilot now and you're interested in one of these 3 new applications, you will need to submit a new application. Again, for the 3 different new options, that is just one application. So if you're doing spring adoption coaching, if you're doing the summer pilot, or if you're doing the full year pilot, that's just one application, essentially a checkbox to say, these are the ones that I want. Stipends for participating teachers, is this being provided by the district or by TEA? For CRIMSI summer pilot, TA is able to provide participating teachers and also participating educators. So if assistant principals or instructional coaches want to participate as well, stipends would be available for them. So want to just ground in next steps real quick, and then I think we will still have some time at the end for questions, and I'll answer as many as I possibly can, as long as I have the knowledge to do so. Next steps. The application resources are all available to you at texthomeLearning.org/CRIMSI. The application is available there too. There's also a pop-up box that is comes up usually when you go to texthomeLearning.org that takes you right there. That just happens a lot for people like me that go to that website a lot, and it's not annoying at all that it happens. You can access this recorded webinar and the associated slides at texthomeLearning.org. And then again, please reach out to our team if you are interested. If you have any questions at all, texasHomeLearning.org. And again, I'll throw my my email address in the chat so that we can tackle those questions as they see fit. Another last plug for the survey. If you're interested, the link to the survey is in the bottom left. I'm also threw that in the chat a few minutes ago. Please take that if you're interested, to let us know, and let us know how we can adjust the program to help meet those needs. So with that, we will take any more questions that you have. I just want to, again, thank you all so much for your time. Thanks for being here today. Happy Friday to you that are here live. If you're watching this on demand, I hope it's Friday for you as well. But it's always a pleasure getting to talk with our educators across the state. And we think that we're putting together something that can be useful for folks to the extent it is. We're willing to help. Again, all optional supports that are available to folks, and we want to be able to, we know folks are moving mountains out there, and we want to be able to assist any way that we can. So I will use the last, I think we have a substantial amount of time for questions. I'll use this time for questions. If you do not have any more questions, feel free to go enjoy your lunch. and have a wonderful rest of your day, wonderful rest of your week. And thanks for all you do for kids in Texas. Question in the chat, is TA providing printed materials free of charge? So for the CRIMSI, for the summer CRIMSI pilot, for the unit that you're using for CRIMSI, TEA will pay for those printed materials. That's similar to how we did it for the spring CRIMSI program as well. The question was, CRIMSI created specifically to give targeted support for THL. Yeah, good question. Again, there's THL exists. Anybody can use THL, any part of THL, how they see fit. That's how it's made. That's how it's available for folks. If you want additional support, we develop CRIMSI. So CRIMSI gives additional support, professional development, ongoing coaching, communities of practice. In some cases, like the spring and summer pilots, we were able to give printed materials and stipends for educators. So I would think about CRIMSI as something extra, right? So it's extra support. Yeah, good question. I think is a question that's on a lot of district leaders' mind about additional funding for summer school from TEA. I am unfortunately not apprised of anything that we are able to offer in addition to supports like CRIMSI for summer. I do know as a part of this summer learning framework, there is a specific webinar, and if you go to texashomelearning.org/summer, scroll down to the summer learning framework, there's a specific webinar on budgeting, and that we are essentially going through the different funding streams that are available for folks to tap into for summer, and how you could braid those funds together. These are things like additional day school year, 21st century community learning centers, the EL summer program, some other federal programs as well. But we'll be able to offer those supports for budgeting. Question about minimum number of teachers who must participate. Ideally, we could get the teachers that share a subject within a grade level. So if my third grade is departmentalized and I have 2 third grade math teachers, we've seen it be more successful if you get both of those math teachers involved so that they can kind of learn from each other. It's not a requirement. We do know there's plenty of districts that actually only have 1 third grade math teacher or 1 third grade teacher, period. In that case, the minimum is 1. You don't need to get more. You don't have more, and that's fine too. So that's again goes back to the flexibility and design of this program that you're able to determine as the leader. Yeah, so there was a follow-up on that one. That's our teachers aren't departmentalized. It's we have 1 third grade teacher, and so if that's the case, what that third grade teacher could do is only say, I want to do this in 1 subject. So I wouldn't think of it as a lift to do all the subjects that folks have. So that's appropriate too. We have a few questions on the stipend, any information on the summer stipend. We are working with our budget team right now to determine the amount of the stipend. We will publish that on we'll go ahead and publish that on the website in these documents. And then we'll follow that up with a newsletter on our Texas Home Learning newsletter to make sure you get access to that information. We should be able to have that within the next few days. Our next newsletter goes out on Monday, the March 22nd. So we'll go ahead and include it in that newsletter, assuming we're able to get that information from our budget team. That's definitely information that we'll be able to have for y'all. To sign up for that newsletter, just go to texthomeLearning.org. In the top right corner, you'll see a button that says stay updated, and that's how you can sign up for the newsletter. Question on the rolling deadline for the full year pilot. Will that be, when it fills up, will we post that? Yes, we'll post it and say application closed, similar to, we'll post it and say application closed on the website. We'll let you know. We always want to do every single thing that we can to build in supports for folks that want them in the state. And so if, I would think of this as like, let's still email us and let's figure out if there is an option, even if we do get up to capacity. And there may be even a modified version of this that we can still provide folks with. Just want to make sure that we're doing all we can to meet those needs. Right, folks. I think that's all the questions in the Q&A. If you did have a question that I didn't answer, you go ahead and throw it back in there just so I can make sure I get you everything you need. There's a question on the summer pilot materials. Are the summer pilot materials pulled from the existing resources or new materials being developed? The answer to that question is summer materials are being, the answer is it depends. Some subjects, it doesn't make sense to just pull from an existing unit. I'll give you an example. I was an Algebra 2 teacher. It doesn't make sense to say the summer unit is going to be radical expressions. So that's not going to be the summer unit. So in that case, in some subjects, we actually have to put together a specific package. So I can give you a preview of summer for high school math, for example. It will involve a combination of Mathia, which is the adaptive online curriculum program, and the teacher-led lessons. So it's a little bit more flexible. So again, the flexibility that's needed in summer, and I think more comprehensive nature, in some cases require us to pull together specific materials. In other cases where the units are more spiraled throughout, so I think about pre-K specifically, those could be pulled from existing units. We will be able to confirm those units over the next, over the coming week or two, and then we will announce those on the webinars during the week of April 5th. Again, if you want to sign up for those webinars, just go to texthomeLearning.org/summer, and you can see the registration links there. Somebody's excited about spring break out there. That's awesome. I love it. Question, can you speak to instructional material requirement for summer? There is no instructional material requirement from THL or TA for the summer. Don't quote me on the TA one. Unless you should follow all state guidelines with summer learning programs. My understanding is that we do not have instructional materials or instructional minute requirements unless you are participating in another initiative or fulfilling a state or federal requirement. For the purposes of Texas home learning, there's not an instructional material requirement for summer. There is a request that you build in the recommended time for the summer, for whatever summer unit you select. So going back to the previous question, there will be specific summer units that we'll be able to announce and promote and support folks with in the coming weeks, and we'll have the unit minutes there. In the meantime, I think you can make the assumption that the minutes within all of the products that exist on texthomeLearning.org will be the same for the summer. So again, if you just go to texthomeLearning.org/by subject, you can see all the minute requirements when you scroll down to the bottom for all of the products. Yes, you can participate only in one subject. And yes, you can email me if you have any other questions. I will throw, again, my email in the chat. Just reach out to me if you have questions about this or anything else. We're happy to help. With that, questions are slowing down. I'll stick around for the next 5 minutes. But again, feel free to drop. If you are going into spring break, congratulations, enjoy it. If you're coming off of spring break, thanks for spending some of your Friday afternoon with us. All right, y'all. There's no more questions coming across. There's still 13 folks that are on. I assume y'all are the folks that are just wanting to hear if somebody else asks a question. If you do have any questions, last call, last 30 seconds. If not, we'll hop and give folks a few minutes back. Wonderful. Thanks again for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks for all you do for Texas Kids.